Hello everybody, welcome to Wear Many Hats. I'm your host, Mark Robinson, and we are joined today by an incredibly interesting individual that has spent many, many years in the facilities management world. I'd like to welcome James Spurrell, partner, head of workplace and of a key client account over at Cushman Wakefield. Hello, how you doing?
I'm very good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
That's all right, you having a good day?
Busy day, but that doesn't normally change.
Yeah, you said you walked over from bank, didn't you?
I did. I always walk. I'm not a big fan of the tube.
You're not? Yeah, no, it's horrible down there, isn't it?
It is.
How long did it take you?
Well, Google says 35 minutes. It took me about 25 minutes.
Ah, so you're a fast walker.
Always.
Good stuff. Good to hear that. All right, well, listen, should we crack straight onto the questions?
Absolutely.
All right, then. So, firstly, tell us about your career journey in facilities management. How did it start? Where did you come from? And so on and so forth.
Sure. So I think, like most people that you probably speak to in facilities, I came into it by accident.
Yeah.
I worked in a bookies to start. I worked at a few pubs.
Right.
But then I got a job in London as I can't even remember the job title. It was either office junior, T-boy. I'm not sure what it was.
Yeah.
But
General dog's body.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was for an investment bank in the city.
Right.
I was there quite a long time. I progressed there. I think I was doing the basic dog's body stuff, as you put it.
Yeah.
But then they got me involved in more facilities matters.
Right.
And progressed from there. And then I moved to a governing body, I suppose, the Chartered Insurance Institute.
Oh, wow, really?
Governing body of insurance.
Right.
And I was their in-house facilities person.
Right.
So before I moved into the managing agent world, where I am now, I was tenant side and I suppose landlord owner side as well. So quite different areas of facilities.
So did you have much facilities management experience as the general dog's body before you moved into the Chartered Institute, or
absolutely none to start? But,
so you had to go in there and learn it all.
I was there for about 5 years.
Right.
So I kind of learned a lot off my own back over that time.
Yeah.
And then obviously at the Chartered Insurance Institute, I did kind of learn on my feet.
Yeah. That must have taken some courage, because going from a quite junior role into what could be perceived as quite a senior role, looking after the facilities management of a Chartered Institute. That must be, it was quite brave to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I had obviously the support of my manager at the Chartered Institute. Yeah, and she supported me through that. But I think one of the things about me is I don't mind a challenge. I don't mind jumping in the deep end. And I think I would always say to anyone, just try it, especially in facilities.
Yeah.
If you don't try it, you can't succeed.
Yeah, without a doubt. So did you do any kind of training or anything like that to help develop yourself whilst at the Chartered Institute?
Yeah, I did quite a lot of training, actually.
Right.
I did level 4, 5 and 6, BIFM at the time, now IWFM.
Yeah.
I also did some CAD training, some project management training. So, yeah, quite a lot of kind of desktop training. Yeah. But I think probably where I learned the most was just doing the day job. Right. There's only so much that you can actually learn from a course.
Yeah, so obviously that was a great grounding for you, I'm guessing, in terms of your career. Because obviously you got the support, the development. You were there for 5 years. Did you have any mentors or anything like that within the Chartered Institute whilst you worked there?
Yeah, I mean, they did actually do a mentor program. Right. And I had a mentor who wasn't technically in facilities, but we got on really well, and he helped me kind of with my career progression and management and communication. Yeah. Which is obviously another key thing in our industry.
Yeah, okay, fantastic. So from the Chartered Institute, you moved into that sort of property management world. Talk to us about your career there, how that evolved, and how you got to where you are now.
Sure. So, yeah, I moved to Cushman Wakefield, where I was for about 6 years. Right. I went in as a facilities manager and realised straight away how little I knew from previous experience. Yeah. Even though it had been probably 10 years in the industry by that point. Right. You realise very quickly working for a managing agent how little you actually know until your boots on the ground.
Yeah, so were you multi-site then?
I was multi-site.
So you moved from client side to a multi-site environment. Exactly. How did you find that transition?
I loved it, to be fair, and I always say that there's two types of people in facilities management. There's people that like the single buildings, and there's people that like the rovers. I was very much a rover, spinning the plates.
I'm the same. I like it as well. It gives you a bit of freedom, I think.
It does give you freedom.
You have to work hard, but it gives you a bit of freedom.
It does. But it also gives you variety as well.
Yeah.
You see all the different types of buildings, different types of people, tenants, clients.
So in that role, James, how many buildings were you responsible for at that time?
Anything from 10 to 20 at the time, depending on the size and type of building, depending on capacity of the other team members. It kind of goes up and down quite a lot in managing agent worlds. Yeah,
without a doubt. So did you do, similarly to the Chartered Institute, did you have to expand your skill set and develop yourself to be able to deal in that different environment?
Absolutely. I say, as I said earlier, I kind of didn't realise how much I didn't know until I'd started doing that role. And you do learn so much. I think when I was at the Chartered Insurance Institute, it's one building. It was all paper-based.
Yeah. So, back in the days when we had paper. I know.
Exactly. So coming into all the different CAFAM systems and things like that was quite an eye-opener.
Because I imagine it'd be different per building as well, wouldn't it? So you probably have to get used to multiple variations of similar systems.
Different clients, different systems, different buildings. They all do things slightly differently. It's all part of the fun.
So you've got to be good at juggling then, effectively.
Juggling, spinning plates.
Oh, good stuff. Okay, so talk us into, obviously you were at Cushman Wakefield for 6 years. You then moved on to...
I moved on to MAP. That was about a year and a half ago. They offered me a role as kind of FM lead for the South.
So that was a step up once again.
It was,
in terms of your career.
I mean, when I was at Cushman the first time, I did have a couple of promotions within that 6 years. So when I left, I was kind of heading up the FM team in the City of London.
Oh wow!
Which was good.
And how many FMs were you responsible for at that time?
Ooh, now you're asking. I think it was about 20, 22 at the time.
So that's a lot of people. That's a lot of direct
FMs,
reports.
Building managers.
That's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
That must have been quite challenging.
It had its moments.
Oh, good stuff.
I think the team were all very different with different levels of experience, and that's part of the management role, I suppose, is learning how to manage different people.
Did you enjoy that then, the leadership element?
Absolutely. I mean, it's what I really enjoy. I think I really enjoyed my time as facilities manager.
Right.
Actually doing the work, managing the buildings. But as I've progressed, absolutely, kind of being that leadership role is what I enjoy the most.
Right. Okay. So, do you? How do you develop your team now? Do you get quite heavily involved in the development and so on and so forth?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's different depending on each individual.
Yeah.
Some of them don't need much hand-holding. Some of them need a lot of development.
Yeah.
And I see it as my role to kind of decipher that and work on kind of bespoke plans for each person.
So like to become like a facilitator in some kind of way to make sure that you look after everybody's interests and develop them properly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm kind of really proud of the fact that people in previous teams that I don't work with anymore still contact me to ask my advice and what can I do about this. And
so now effectively you are the mentor as opposed to the mentoree.
Absolutely. I've actually logged myself as a potential mentor on IWFM. They've got a new mentoring program.
Right. Okay.
So I'm on there if anyone's interested.
We'll talk a little bit about that then. Do you want to tell us a bit about it? Because there may well be a listener out there that's looking for a mentor, to be fair.
Sure. So it's a new program that the IWFM started a couple of months ago.
Right.
So they've opened it up to senior people in the industry with differing experiences.
Yeah.
And it's all on the IWFM website. You kind of click on the mentoring section and it will list all the different mentors that are there.
Right.
And you match yourself with someone that has the skills that you're looking for.
Yeah, so it's like Tinder mentoring. that kind of scenario.
Like that, yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Well, listen, if anybody wants a great mentor, James is available. Jump onto IWFM and search for his information. Okay, but moving back to your career. Sorry, I've sidestepped again there, James. I do apologise. You're now obviously in a completely different role with Cushman. So talk to us a little bit about that role and how it differs from roles you've done previously, I suppose.
Sure. So, I started back at Cushman Wakefield about 3 months ago.
Yep.
As you say, in a completely different role, different team, but it feels like I've never left.
Yeah.
I still see the same faces.
Yep.
Still talk to the same people. Just in a different role. So now I'm heading up the FM or workplace team.
Yep.
For one of our key clients.
Right.
And it's really exciting. It's very busy.
Yeah.
Really exciting stuff.
Yeah. So how many sites are you responsible for?
So overall, the client has just over 100 properties.
Wow.
That includes kind of FRIs, so tenant responsibility buildings, but around 50 service charge properties.
Wow, that's significant, isn't it? And in terms of that, how many direct reports do you have now in your current role?
Direct reports, I think I've got 6, but kind of the whole team is probably around 20.
Wow. So that's very significant then.
Yeah.
And have you enjoyed that change as well? That move into because it sounds like quite a more expansive role than what you had previously.
It's more expansive geographically as well as anything else. It's a national team.
Right.
So whereas previously I was London or the South, now it's a national team. So that has its challenges.
Are you getting up north ever?
Yeah, I've been up there a few times.
Love it, don't you? It's great, isn't it? Hey, innit?
Can't complain.
Come on, it's nice, isn't it? Hey, listen, if you want any tips about where to go up north, James, just ask me. I can tell you all the best places, without a doubt. Especially Wensleydale. It's God's own county, mate. Right? Sorry, Yorkshire. Yorkshire's God's own. I better not say Wensleydale. All the Yorkshire people will get upset. All right, brilliant. Listen, James, thank you very much. Well, listen, that's such a great overview of your career so far. So what we'd like to do now is sort of, blend into your expertise, really, and sort of see how you view the industry moving forward. So what advice would you give to somebody who was interested in starting a career in facilities management?
Okay. Probably the biggest piece of advice that I would give people is be the person that gets things done.
I like it, yeah.
In facilities management especially, I think in most walks of life, but in facilities management especially, it's a problem-solving industry. Yeah. And people come to you to solve problems. Yeah. They don't come to you to pass it on to somebody else. No. So the biggest piece, and what's really helped me in my career is when someone asks me to do something, I rarely say that's not my job. Yeah. I get it done. And if it's not my job, I find out whose job it is and ask them to help me. Right. But I can't emphasize that enough, really. I think that's really important. The FMs that I've seen that are in my team that are coming through that just get the job done is a real bonus. But probably the second thing I'd say as well is answer your emails. Fair enough. Yeah, go on. Not an answer we've had so far, actually, to be fair. Probably the most common complaint I get from clients, tenants, line managers is that person doesn't answer me. Really? And it's such an easy thing to do, but it goes such a long way. Yeah. Yeah. See, do you know how I do it? I've got a little trick for it, and I'm sure other people do the same thing. I'll always send back a holding email. Always. If I know that I don't have the time to resolve it right now, I'll send a holding email just saying I'll get to this within. Yeah, I do like that. Yeah. As long as you do actually come back to it. That's true. Because again, you get so many people that send the holding email and they never do anything. Yeah. And that's almost worse. To be fair, that is true, yeah. If you've contacted them and said, I'll do it, and then you don't do it, they're like, well, he told me he would, Exactly. Okay, or she told me she would, know. Okay, cool. No problem at all. So moving on to something slightly different, where do you see artificial intelligence fitting into the facilities management sector? Have you got any insights, anything you think may or may not happen? Sure. I mean, smart buildings is something that's talked about a lot. Yeah. I'll be completely honest, I'm a bit of a skeptic. Right, go on. Let's get that. I want to know. Tell me a bit more about that. Come on. It certainly has potential.
Yeah.
But I just think we're not where we need to be yet.
Right.
I've seen a lot of examples where they go full throttle on the smart buildings.
Yeah.
And then have to curtail it again because it's not working or the tenants aren't engaged with it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's one of the big smart buildings in London. I remember going there and I completely threw them because I asked to see someone that wasn't on their list and they didn't know what to do.
Really?
I had to see about 6 different people because they didn't have this person who's working in that building. And it just really threw them. And I found that really quite funny.
That is quite funny, actually, yeah. What happened? What was the outcome of that? Did they find the individual in the end?
You know what? I can't actually remember. Yeah. I think I had to call them.
Really?
Yeah.
Were they in the building?
They were in the building, They were sitting just over there.
Really?
Yeah. But, yeah, I find it funny because they had their iPads and it all looks great, but yeah, they didn't.
Well, technology, I think technology is an enabler. But, you know, I mean, I think facilities management is so heavily, it's such a people business, isn't it? You know, it's all about people, really. I don't see how you could ever take that away. You know, unless we've got, you know, holograms that are completely 100% interactive, i.e. they can have the type of conversation that you and I are having right now.
We did have a tenant that had a robot security guard.
Oh, go on. How did that go?
I wasn't quite sure about. I mean, that's quite an expensive CCTV camera they've got there. But
yeah. Was it that like big domed one that just patrolled around?
To be honest, I never actually saw him. So,
really?
No.
Interesting that you call him him. Isn't it though? It's quite interesting though, isn't it? You know, we automatically assume that it's, you know, a part of the building now.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, I mean, to be honest, as I say, I am a skeptic, but I think that there are some real advantages to smart buildings. It just has to be bespoke to that building. One size doesn't fit all.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's for everything, though, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It is.
So, and I would say until technology catches up with that, i.e., you know, there is that flexibility within those systems because right now they're quite rigid, aren't they? You know, in terms they can do what they can do and that's it. You know, there's no, you know, flexibility associated with them. There's certain parameters that they have to stick to.
Well, I think also it's depending on the actual technology in the background and the maintenance of that. I've seen situations where you've got proper artificial intelligence where it can tell who you are by walking through by your security pass, what temperature you light your desk, whether you cycle, all these things. But if that kit's not maintained, it's going to think you're someone else.
And then you're in all kinds of trouble.
And then you're in all kinds of trouble. So
yeah, that's a fair comment, actually. So rather than potentially being a tool that could help, it could also really be a tool that could hinder.
Yeah.
If not adequately maintained and looked after properly.
Yeah.
That's a really valuable insight. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. Okay, so what else? Right, yeah. This is a good question. I like this question. As you know, environmental, social and governance is becoming a significant issue for business on the whole, not just facilities management. My opinion on this, by the way, is that facilities management are pretty good at it. I think we're probably one of the better industries. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I'd agree. I think we're quite progressive in that area of facilities management. I'm actually very lucky. Cushman Wakefield and my client are really on board with it.
Yeah.
We've embedded ESG and social value into our procurement exercises.
Right.
We have our own ESG and social value team that are embedded with our facility management team.
Right. Okay.
It's really important.
Yeah.
Just things like I think we as a UK business only procure renewable energy.
Right.
Obviously that has drawbacks as well, but I think it really shows our desire to meet these ESG requirements.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So can you give any examples of things that you guys do from an ESG perspective that differs to anybody else?
Oh, that's a difficult one.
Yeah.
I think things that we do that are different. I think it's more about how we do them. because people have the same targets. You know, they have net zero targets. They have the MEES requirements. But it's how we achieve that I think is different, rather than the targets themselves.
I agree with that. I think that's a very valid statement. Yeah,
and I think we've got a really good team. I think, especially when it comes to the MEES requirements, we've got teams that will do building modelling for you to assist with that strategy over the next 5 to 7 years, to help buildings and clients meet those requirements. Yeah, I think that's a really good tool.
Yeah, I think we're all learning. You know, I think it's a little bit like it's still just out of the box. Does that make sense? It's a little bit still just out of the box, and I think we're all learning about how we can do things to make, you know, things better for everybody, and, you know, just be responsible businesses, I suppose, and do the right thing for the right reason.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it does feel like it's, especially when you're talking about social value. I think ESG is probably slightly more embedded, but social value is very, very new to the industry. I think there's a lot that companies are doing, but it's not necessarily got the focus previously that it has now. No,
well, I mean, you take mental health. You know, 10 years ago, you know, we didn't really talk about it. Nobody spoke about it. You know, now not only is it talked about, but there's provisions in place to support people that have mental health issues, and so I think it's great. I think, you know, and I do think our industry is one of the better industries out here. I really do, because I see some of the initiatives out there that some people are doing, and, you know, you see it on LinkedIn, for example. You know, and, you know, sometimes you look at it and you go, "Oh, they're just doing that for excellent." But the reality is they're still doing something very, very good, which is nice to see.
I mean, the probably the most common example of that is the litter picks. Everyone likes a litter pick. Yeah, it is really good, but there are a lot of other things that can be done. I know that we've done things like secondhand book vending machines that we've put in places. You know,
I like that. That's a really good idea.
I mean, and that went down really well with some of the tenants.
So basically, like, employees, people that come into the building, bring in their old books, it goes into a vending machine, and then they can just take them out.
Yeah, exactly, and they get a different one out.
What a clever idea. I really like that. That's really, really good. Okay, cool. So based on your experience, what do you think the future landscape of facilities management looks like?
I mean, ESG, as we've talked about, is going to be very key to that, but I think probably customer experience is equally as important.
Completely agree.
I think gone are the days where the FM is a handyman and they just go around and fix things.
Yeah. The role has evolved a lot.
It has.
I would say. Yeah.
It's evolved incredibly, and now it's very much about creating places where people want to come to work, and that is a big challenge in the industry at the moment, is getting people back to work, and it's part of our role now to make those buildings attractive so that they will come back.
Well, you've got to make it nicer than home to a certain extent, don't you? Because obviously COVID changed things. Yeah. And people are like, hang on a second, I can do this at home. Why am I going in there? You know, so you have to create an environment where they think, I fancy going in there for the social element and so on and so forth, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. And offices these days are becoming more of a social place. I know for me, I get much more work done when I get home. Yeah, my time in the office is invaluable because I get to collaborate with people. I get to talk to people. I have face-to-face meetings. Yeah. Every time I come into the office, I'm incredibly busy and get very little work done. But I know that day's been valuable.
I think that face-to-face collaboration is incredibly important. And I think as well, sometimes we need to remember how much we missed it during the lockdowns and COVID and things like that, you know, because I did. You know, I'm a social animal. I like to be meeting people, talking to them. You know, I find it really difficult. Hate teams, you know. It's part of life now, but...
It is part of life now. Yeah. But I'm the same. I always prefer to do things face-to-face. Yeah. I had my first kind of national team meeting the other day, and it was on Teams because obviously I've got teams all over the country, and I found it really difficult because you've got 20 people on a call, and it's really difficult to engage all of them for half an hour, on a Teams meeting. It's much easier in person.
Have you downloaded the new Teams, by the way?
I can't say that I have. I didn't know. Is it any different?
Yeah, there's a new one. It's got new functionality. So there's a button you can press where basically, we found this out yesterday, where basically you press a button and it looks like everybody that's on the Teams is actually in an auditorium, seated next to each other in front of you. Okay. It's actually really good, isn't it? It was quite interesting. Just something for your next team meeting. It might make it look like everyone's together.
I'll try that.
Yeah, give it a crack. All right, brilliant. Well, look, what are some of the common challenges today that you would face in facilities management? What are the things today that are very difficult to solve that you have to, but you still have to solve them, obviously?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the occupancy rates is probably one of the biggest ones.
Yeah.
Which we've talked about, and obviously the opportunity around that is to make your buildings places where they want to come in. But yeah. I guess from a purely FM point of view, the challenge is around the skill set of the people in the industry. Right. I think because of the way it's evolved, we're looking for people to be technical, to be health and safety compliant, but also to have that customer experience and hospitality edge as well. Yeah. And finding those people is absolutely doable, but it does put a strain on your recruitment team.
I imagine it would do, yeah, because what you tend to find is that technical people don't tend to be the most, how do I say this without getting myself in trouble? Don't tend to be very people orientated in some circumstance. I'm not saying all, because that's a blanket approach, but technical people aren't as people. So to find people with all the skills, I imagine that is difficult, actually.
Yeah, and it goes back to a lot of people in the industry that have got a lot of experience in FM. Yeah, might struggle with how it's evolved into that customer-facing approach. Yeah, because they're used to being in the back technically. Yeah. Everything's hunky-dory with compliance and everything's working.
Hidden away like the Phantom of the Opera.
Something like that, yeah.
Okay, cool. No problem at all. So what would you say, how do you stay informed about new developments within the industry? Do you do anything like networking? Obviously, you mentioned IWFM. I would assume that's an element.
Yeah, I mean, IWFM is really good for networking, but also some of the webinars they put on. Yeah. They're quite informative. I'm also, again, very lucky working at Cushman Wakefield. We've got a great insight team. I mean, it's an international company with so many different service lines. So they come up with a lot of thought leadership, which is really helpful for me. Yeah.
So learnings from other countries, other economies, things that you could effectively implement here that have worked well elsewhere.
Yeah, that and also other service lines. So obviously Cushman Wakefield do everything to do with property, and while it's not necessarily 100% relevant to FM, learning about the state of the market and what's going well, what investors are buying is really important.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant, good stuff. And I guess if we move on to something slightly different, what do you see as the biggest opportunities in the industry moving forward?
I think there's a lot of challenges, and those challenges come with their own opportunities.
I like that. Yeah.
So, I mean, you talk about, or I mentioned the MEES compliance, which is certainly a challenge, but it brings its own opportunities, which will help make our buildings more efficient and better for the environment. So, and one of the key aspects of that is data analytics.
Yes, yeah,
and that's something I'm really keen on, and I've seen some huge impacts by installing systems. There's various out there, cheap, medium, expensive, but they're all beneficial, right? And they have a significant impact on energy consumption, which again lowers cost. But then you've also got aspects around comfort, around heating, around cleanliness. Yeah.
So you can identify trends effectively, trends that can then drive efficiency and improvements.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that's a real opportunity in the industry that's still growing. It's been around for a while, but it hasn't been implemented as much as I think it could and should be.
Right, okay. That's really interesting. Thank you. So sort of moving back to you specifically, is there any particular project that you were involved in that's really impacted your career because of the lessons you've learned as a direct result of it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I was, I suppose, middle management, I was given a particular client who weren't necessarily very pleased with how we were performing.
Right.
And I, along with my colleagues, managed to turn that around quite significantly. And I think the lessons I learned from that were mainly around communication and reporting. I mean, it sounds boring, but it's really important. I think
well, it needs to be done, doesn't it? I mean, it does. That's the reality, you know.
And then there's so much data available these days.
Yeah.
And you can shove it all in front of a client, and they don't know what they're looking at.
No.
So I think it's quite a skill to take the salient pieces of information from that and actually put it into a report the client wants to see.
Yeah.
And I think that made so much difference
right
to that client and what we were doing for them.
Yeah.
They could actually see what we were doing.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's really stuck with me.
Yeah. So combining all the different elements proved really useful for that client, as opposed to different inputs from different areas, collating it together, making it easy for them to disseminate. You know, had a really positive result for you.
Yeah, I think when I first started doing it, it took me a week every month just to write the report.
Wow.
And I don't think anyone read it. So by the end, it was down to kind of an executive summary.
Yeah.
And you still got all the data in the background should anyone want to read it. I don't think they ever did.
But they've got the overarching element that
but
they can
they've got
review.
the high level summary, which tells them what they want to hear.
Exactly.
It had a big impact on me as well as the client.
Okay, brilliant. Well, conversely, any regrets?
Not really. I wouldn't say regrets. Possibly my only regret is not progressing my career earlier. I think I'm quite a loyal person. If you look at my CV, I haven't jumped around much.
So you think you waited too long?
I think I probably waited too long at the beginning as a junior person. I think if I had tried to make that step earlier, I think it would have benefited me. But
you're not an old man. You don't look old. You still look quite dynamic and youthful.
I do play vets football. So
vets.
I'm that old.
Right. Okay. Good stuff. Well, I can't run these days. My knees are knackered.
I get injured every week.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I probably shouldn't play.
Yeah. It's not a good weekend unless you go to work with a limp, is it? Okay, brilliant, good stuff. Just sort of touching on how would you if you could go back, for example, and taking into account what you just said, what would you change?
It's difficult because you can talk a lot from hindsight.
Yes,
but I know a lot more now than I did then.
Yeah, true.
So I might say that I regret not moving earlier, but probably I wasn't ready to move earlier. So it's difficult to say that I would change anything.
Right.
Possibly, kind of. I guess the one thing I would change would be to, when you're in that junior position, to understand the industry a bit better and what opportunities are out there.
Yeah.
Because I was very blinkered. I only knew the job that I was doing.
Yeah.
So I probably would expand my horizons and actually explore the industry a bit more, even if I didn't move job. But at least I would know what's
out there and what opportunities are available. All right, brilliant. Thank you very much, James. That's really interesting. So moving on to you specifically, outside of work, what do you like to get up to? What gives you the greatest pleasure and enjoyment?
That's probably the easiest question. My family, my 2 young kids.
Yeah, brownie points.
This is going straight to my wife.
Yeah, exactly. I promise he didn't say anything different.
No, I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
I love playing with my kids.
Cool. How old are your kids?
2 and 5.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, my footballing days are probably over fairly soon, but my eldest loves football. So taking him to football on the weekend is it's kind of a highlight for me.
Yeah, I've got a 2-year-old as well, so they're crazy, aren't they?
Yeah, my 2-year-old's just started playing football as well. He had his first lesson last week.
We're trying to potty train at the minute.
Oh, really?
Oh, God, it's stressful. It is really stressful. Listen, there'll be people out there listening to this that will completely understand what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like wheeze on the couch and poos on the couch. Oh, God, it's hard work. Yeah, brilliant. Anything outside of the family that you like to... You mentioned football. Are you a football fan? Who do you follow?
I am a big football fan. I'm not going to tell you who I follow on live on this.
Go on.
Not going to do that.
Oh.
It will impact
Will it?
what people think of me, I'm sure.
Oh.
Although I will say I follow my local team, Bromley.
Right, okay.
They're doing very well this season, actually.
Are they?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were on Welcome to Wrexham, I think, not that long ago, weren't they?
Were they really? I haven't seen that yet.
It's actually really good. It's actually really, really good. It's very, very Americanised, as you would expect, but it's a very interesting take on a lower league club and the journey that they have to go through. So I would recommend it. So it's worth a watch.
Let's hope Bromley can follow in Wrexham's footsteps and get promoted this year.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Okay, well, listen, James, that brings us to the end of our podcast. Have you enjoyed it?
I have actually, yeah. Thank you.
It's been very, very interesting. Thank you very much for taking the time to come and talk about your career journey with us. To all the listeners out there, remember the key points. If you're looking for a mentor, jump onto IWFM. James is available. James, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Take care. Thanks, listeners.